invite anyone to share any experience they had while chanting today. If there was something that you noticed or some takeaway from this chanting of the holy names in a meditative way. Anybody have anything to share? Don't be shy. Did it make any difference? Yes, please. Maybe there can be a microphone. Is Nishinga here? Where is Nishinga? Oh. It's a little loud. Be careful, it's a little loud. Hold it a little bit away, yeah.
Hare Krishna. So,
hello? That's the way I feel. I feel like crying all the time, disturbed. Yes, please.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Baba. So, I also go to Harinam whenever I can. So, when doing this Harinam chanting, like Harinam Mahamantra chanting, I feel like, we are cleansing our heart, getting more closer to God. And we'll just try to get rid of all the, the bad qualities like having greed, anger. I feel that most of the time, and I feel like I'm connected to everyone around me. That will just give me a lot of joy, and that's why.
On the Harinam.
Yes.
What about when you were just doing individual japa today?
Today, I feel the same thing. Like I was just looking at Radha Krishna and doing chanting, so felt good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Anyone else? Something to share? The chanting of Hare Krishna, as Prabhu was saying, it actually cleanses the heart. Lust, anger, greed, envy, all these different things which are reserved within our heart from our previous activities can be cleansed away. Chaitadarpanam marjanam bhava mahagni nivarpanam. At the heart. Now, actually, the soul is residing in the, not like inside the heart, but in the region of the heart. The soul is there. And the Paramatma is right next to us also. So we have Atma, which is our individual soul, and we have Paramatma, who is the witness and the permitter. And so as we go through our life, which we have done many, many times, we've had many, many lifetimes, and as we go through, we accrue different reactions for our activities. Therefore, it's very important to be careful of what we do, what our actions are. Because now we can understand the difficulty or the challenge of having the heart cleansed in such a way where we're able to associate with the Supreme Lord. This is the method for this age. In other ages, there were different methods. But this age, the chanting of the holy name, Nama Chintamani, the holy name alone is the way to purify our heart. And by so doing, all the unwanted things come out. But as we begin to chant the holy name, we can understand that there are certain obstructions. It's described in the scripture that simply by once chanting the holy name without offense, one will immediately come in contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. This is the potency of the holy name of the Lord. Not only in our religious tradition, but in many religious traditions, this is described. I was just listening to lectures by His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami, when he was in South Africa. And he was describing all these different places in the Quran and the Bible and Buddha and this one and that one, the emphasis, Christianity, on the emphasis of chanting the holy name. When Prabhupada first came, Prabhupada is the founder Acharya of our society. And when he came to America, he started this, which our friend was saying, the Harinam, when we go on the streets and chant the holy names of the Lord, and we share the effect of chanting the holy names with everyone we come in contact with. And when he wrote a little essay about the chanting of the holy name, and he explained that there are literally no hard and fast rules. Even a child can chant the holy names of the Lord. And that it's not an artificial imposition on our mind. The mind, it may feel like the mind is being imposed upon by the chanting of the holy name, but the mind, which is full of material desires, our bodies, our minds, intelligence, they are all contaminated by Krodha Asha. What was I going to say? Kama. It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of the mode of passion and later transformed into wrath. And so this obstructs our pure transcendental existence. And so we have this opportunity in this time, in this age, to simply chant the holy names of the Lord, and Prabhupada would say on a regular daily basis. It's not something that we do once in a while here or there, but on a regular daily basis. Just like to stay healthy, we eat every day unless we're on a fast. But we don't have to fast from chanting the holy names. Every day, daily, on a daily basis, to chant this holy name will have an accumulated effect which will allow us slowly to erode away all the unwanted things from the heart. So we pray that you're all able to utilize this session, which we've started recently, having this japa session. We call it japa. Japa is chanting the holy names on beads or on our fingers. And Harinam is out in the streets with drums and cartels. And so there's two methods, there's two processes. And it's described that by going out on the street and chanting the holy names in public and giving others the opportunity to share in this glorification of the Lord, that one's personal meditation evolves very, very quickly. From going out on Harinam Sankirtan in the public and sharing the holy names. It's described in the Shastra, the scriptures, that if one knowingly or unknowingly hears the holy name of the Lord, or one jokingly says the holy name of the Lord, or one mockingly chants the holy name of the Lord, one gets benefit. One gets very, very strong benefit from this process. So we hope and pray that you all continue to come a little bit earlier to associate with us and to give us your association while we practice this process of chanting the holy name before we have our Sunday class on the Bhagavad Gita. And we thank everyone that's participated tonight, this evening, for coming and giving us your precious time. So now we'll have just a little kirtan. Is everybody, if anybody here doesn't know what a kirtan is, please raise your hand. Everybody knows what a little kirtan is? we'll see how it goes. My voice has been very active this week. Does everybody know the song Jaya Radha Madhava? Anybody not know this song, Jaya Radha Madhava? Very, very intimate song, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, that Radha and Madhava are having wonderful exchanges in the kunjas, the forests. Giribari Dari, at the lifter of Govardhan Hill. Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana, that Krishna is the joy of the inhabitants, the parents and the inhabitants of Vrindavan, Yamuna Tira, Vanachari, with special pastimes on the banks of the Yamuna. So we'll sing this song for a few minutes. Please bear with me with the challenges of voice. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Don't be afraid to chant. Everybody chant. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pribhajak Acharya Astotara Satashi Shiman. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBTs Panduracharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Hare Nam Sankirtan Yagna ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Samaveda Bhaktivinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. I thought we would read a little bit from the Bhagavad Gita. Hoping to come to some clear understanding of our position in this material world. We are all eternal parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as explained by Krishna. We're all individual parts of Krishna. Maimai Vangso, Jiva Loka, Jiva Bhuta, Sanatana. We're all parts and parcels of that Supreme Being, Krishna. Somehow or another, we have misused our independence, which is given to us by Krishna, the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is supremely independent, and because we are a part and parcel of that Supreme Being, we also have independence. We utilize that independence to serve the Supreme Lord in our original constitutional position. But somehow or another, due to envy or whatever it may be, we decide to utilize our intelligence to try to enjoy separately from the Supreme Lord. And in that separate endeavor, we're given a special environment whereby we can think that that's possible. And that's known as the external energy of the Lord, or this material world, this material energy, which we are residing in right now. So I'm on the third chapter. Actually, I'm on the 10th chapter in my personal reading, but I found this to be quite interesting recently when it was mentioned in a purport from the Bhagavatam. So this third chapter is entitled Karma Yoga, introducing us to this process of dovetailing our activities in the service of the Lord. Karma Yoga, karma meaning activities, yoga meaning connecting. So connecting our occupation, connecting our varna, our ashram, and everything with Krishna. And slowly making Krishna the focal point of everything that we do or everything that we engage in. So in the first chapter is just basically telling us what's happening on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. What's happening. And the second chapter gives us, it's basically divided into three divisions, maybe 3.5 divisions, because it kind of rolls over from the first chapter where Arjuna decides he doesn't want to fight. And he thinks he's quite intelligent. He thinks he's figured it all out. There's no reason for me to fight. Sin will happen, misfortune will happen, the worship or the care of our elders won't happen. There's just all misfortune will happen. So Krishna begins to tell him, Asochan andasochatram pragnam bedam sabhashise. Although you are speaking like a learned person doesn't speak like this. So in the commentary to that verse, it explains generally, in a general sense, not exactly his words, but he's basically calling Arjuna a fool in a kind way. Although you are speaking like you think you're speaking like a learned man, no learned man would lament over the body, whether living or dead, because it's just a piece of matter. It's just a combination of different elements, and it has only the only purpose of it is for the soul to reside in here and to try to lord it over the material energy in our when we have given up our relationship with Krishna, misused our independence. So Krishna gives us a material body by which we can think we're the owner and the controller and the enjoyer. So these basic things are there. So this going through that second chapter, about midway, a little past the midway, Arjuna, Krishna begins the idea of karma yoga. To do our activities for Krishna, to begin this, to understand, first he gives us an understanding that we're not the body. We're not this material body. What is the verse? Dehyonosmin yata dehe komadam yovanam. The body is changing. At every moment, our body is changing. We have like a baby body, and then we have a whatever's next, toddler, and then we have a child bodily, then we have a child's body, a young man or young lady's body, middle-age crisis. Anybody there? Midlife crisis? Somehow or another, I was able to avoid it because I went gray at about 25, so it helped me. It helped me out a little bit, premature gray. And then we become a little bit older and we begin old age. One very nice Vaishnava from our community was visiting me the other day. We spent some time chanting japa together. And then he told me, Maharaj, it's my birthday, and please give me your blessings. I said, blessings is a big word. To give blessings to somebody means you really have something in stock. I said, I can give best wishes. Just like we say, we wish you a good birthday, happy birthday. So I asked him how old he was that day. He said, I'm turning 40. I said, you want to hear a story? You know this one? Rtadhwaja? Okay. When I turned 40 years old, 1992, I was working I had an ashram of about 25 boys living with me, 10, 15 living with me, and 10, 15 as day students in the school. And our school had a small pond in front of it, maybe 2/3 the size of a football field. Yeah, maybe 2/3, a little bit bigger. And so I'm sitting on there listening to a lecture from Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was explaining that the frog is going kakaka, kakaka, inviting the snake to eat them. And I was thinking, well, in America, kids, they don't go kakaka, kakaka, imitating the frogs. They go croak, croak, ribbit, ribbit. So I was thinking, this must be a Bengali way of the kids imitating the frogs. So as soon as I said that, the overpopulation of frogs in the pond, and it was definitely overpopulated. There were thousands of frogs in that pond. And all of a sudden, they started going kakaka, kakaka, kakaka. I mean, phonetically exactly the same as Prabhupada did it. I'm thinking, okay, no problem. Don't think Srila Prabhupada doesn't know what's going on. So again, he's going ka-ka-ka-ka-ka-ka. The frog is inviting the snake to come and eat him. And he said the snake represents death. And then he said, preliminary old age begins at 40. And I had just turned 40. And I thought, okay, welcome to preliminary old age. And then he said, old age is set in by 50. That's like, it began, preliminary is 50 to 40. And when you hit 50, you know it's there. Anybody hit that goalpost yet? The 50 point? The preliminary one? Yeah. That's a shocking experience. I mean, we chant Hare Krishna, we know it's coming. We've been involved in this philosophy for like 50 years. It's not like something new. But when we understand the chronological order of things, we get a better perspective. So we get into that second chapter. We come into the third chapter, and Krishna's explaining to Arjuna that it's not by renunciation alone that one can attain perfection, that one has to learn to engage in yajna. He has to learn how to utilize, yajna means sacrifice. In other words, that which we sacrifice should be sacrificed in the service of the Supreme Lord. Yagnartha Kamanato Ram. There's a nice verse that all this must be engaged in the service of Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by doing this, everything works out well. There's a nice verse in the Bhagavatam that describes that by watering the root of the tree, the whole tree becomes nourished. It's not that we can go walking, just imagine if you saw somebody in an apple orchard with a Achman cup watering all the leaves on a particular apple tree. It doesn't work. You have to water the root. Or the verse also explains that you have to put food in the stomach. The stomach is that which energizes the whole body. And so that way he explains that even the demigods become satisfied, and the demigods become satisfied. When he goes to this whole thing, Indriyani Yarte, yes, there are obstacles in the process of this yajna, and one must learn how to overcome them. So Arjuna asked a very important question. He asked Krishna, Artakena Puyuktayam Papam Karati Purushaha, that why is one impelled to sinful acts, even knowing that sacrifice is the best, to Vishnu is the best thing I should do, still I engage in sinful activity. Artikena payuktoyam pamkarati purusha. So Krishna informs him, Arjuna, it is lust only, which it's like the Mahapapam, it's the all-devouring sinful entity of the individual soul. And it's born of passion, and it develops to the point of wrath, which is ignorance. It just becomes uncontrollable. And Krishna even gives Arjuna information where this enemy, lust, resides. Indriya, mana, buddhi, in the senses, the mind, and within the intelligence. And in the commentary, Srila Prabhupada explains to us what Krishna is doing. I've mentioned this before when I lecture, maybe you've heard it, that we, in the modern age, we don't really know where the enemy, lust, anger, greed, these things are our internal enemies, but in the material side, like where there's combat or enemy or wars or something like that, we don't really know where the enemy is. They're always hiding. They're doing different things. The Prabhupada explains how kind Krishna is, because he's telling us where the enemy is to give us an upper hand, to know that it will come through our senses. And in the end, with this part of the Bible, I'm going to read the last two verses if we have time. But it's described, the senses, the mind, the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. And it be through them, lust covers the real intelligence of the living entity and bewilders him. So in this last two verses, it's described that the working senses are superior to dull matter. The working senses, our knowledge acquiring senses, our working senses are superior to dull matter. And the mind is higher than the senses. And the intelligence is higher than the mind. And we, the soul, are higher than the intelligence. So in this commentary, Srila Prabhupada says that the senses give vent, or they're the way that this lust has an ability to become present through these senses. As Prabhupada says, the senses are different outlets for the activities of lust, and therefore lust is reserved within the body, but it is not given vent through the senses. It becomes this, without that, those senses, we cannot get, it cannot happen. So Krishna has given Arjuna this information, Indriya Mana Buddhi. So then he tells Krishna tells him that there's a way to overcome this. Would anybody in the room like to know how to overcome this? 5 people, only 5. What do you think? Does anybody here experience lust, anger, greed, all these different kinds of things? Swelling up in the heart, swelling up in the mind? It has to. Anybody experience road rage? What do you think road rage is? In the early 70s, I was in San Francisco, driving in a hippie VW Bug. I'm no, Bug, but there was a hippie VW van that was in front of us, and he cut off a guy that was in a Jaguar, had a fancy Jaguar car, and the Jaguar guy started beating on his steering wheel. He was so upset that this hippie VW van got in front of him. So you can see what this lust, anger, greed can lead to. Here you are sitting in San Francisco, one of the nice places. You have a nice car, and some long-haired hippie pulls you off with it. How quickly the anger can arise. It's like a snake. It's like a snake. It's just like a snake. And these verses describe that. The next verse describes that knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence. By deliberate spiritual intelligence, and thus, by spiritual strength, conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Insatiable. After that verse where Krishna says it is lust only, he explains that this cannot, no matter how much you try to enjoy within this material, no matter what you give, that lusty desires, whatever they may be, they can never be fulfilled, and it consumes all those different things like a fire. It's a blazing fire within the heart. So Krishna gives Arjuna that way. He explains, Tasmat tvam indriyanyarda niyam ya bharatarsavaha papmanam prajahihenam jnana vijnana nasanam. Therefore, Arjuna, O best of the Bhartas, are you all ready to begin the journey to control the lust? Raise your hand if you're willing to begin this process. Okay? In the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin by regulating the senses. By regulating the senses. And slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Because this lust covers our intelligence. And the purpose of the intelligence is to learn how to direct ourselves within this material energy. And knowledge is meant, what knowledge means is to understand we're different from this material body. The body is a vehicle. Yantra Rudrani Mayaya. The body is a vehicle to be used by the soul. And as we use this vehicle, if we can just learn to control those senses. Therefore, we have 4 regulated principles in our practice. No illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, no meat eating. These things regulate our senses. And we can even go further. As one wants to approach the process of bhakti, there are many, many limbs to this process. And as one learns to engage Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, Bandhanam, all these different processes of devotional service, one can experience their consciousness actually rising up. Is it time to move them forward? If everybody could just move just a little bit forward, because we have some people that come in that need some room. I promise not to hit anybody. Thank you very much. That was a very good move forward. What do you think, Shingarupa? That was really first class. I mean, I've never seen a move forward so expertly executed as this one just we had. So tasmat tvam indriyan. This Prabhupada explained in one lecture. Tasmat means therefore. From this point forward, just like I asked, is anyone here willing to begin the process of curbing Raja Asha, Krodha Asha? I always get that one backwards. I always mix that with another verse. Raja Asha, Krodha Asha, Raja Gun. Mumbavaha, Pamahinam Pajay, all devouring sinful enemy. So those who want to begin, this is the process. Yama, the word here, tasmam tram indriyan yao down niyama. Yama means controlling or to regulate. One of my friends, close friends, when I was, let's see, how old is I? 79. I would have been 26 years old. Became the secretary of Rtadhwaja Maharaj, he would have been a sannyasi for 7 years. And I was a brahmachari. And he gave a talk on this word yama. Yama means to regulate. So we can voluntarily regulate our senses now when we have good intelligence. When our intelligence has been given to us by the scriptures. We don't want to allow our intelligence to fall down. When our intelligence becomes low, then we need to depend on Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. When our intelligence is weakened, when our intelligence isn't serving our goal, our purpose, to understand our relationship with Krishna, then we submit to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And once we have that shelter of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, our outcome is always bright. Very, very bright. And so this word yama, we have that choice. We can control our senses now that we've been given this opportunity to understand the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. We can do that. We just have to have the determination. We have the determination. Otherwise, there's another way to regulate our senses. It's like we have the word yama, we also have the word yamaraj. Now, we can either do it voluntarily, or he's quite well equipped to help us. Who here wants to do it in the beginning? Just try a little bit now. Who wants to try a little bit now? Who doesn't want to meet Yamaraj? You don't want to meet, it's not a good idea. He'll take, if you have all these different kinds of desires, you can become a hog, a dog, a camel, an ass. You can become so many things. You can become an amoeba. You can become a worm. You can become this or that. He has a special vehicle to put you in so you can learn how to control yourself. And when we get to the pivot point, the pivoting point of human life, then we are meant, our real duty is to understand our true relationship with the Supreme Lord and to engage in that. And if we don't utilize this human form for that, like that, then we lose it. Everyone knows if you go to the gym and you work out, you get something, and then if you stop, you lose all you gain. So that's the truth with our spiritual life. These are very nice verses. You like these verses? The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. So with our intelligence, it's described that we have to seek out our constitutional position of the soul and then engage the mind always in thinking of Krishna. Now, what does that do? Does anybody in this room have any problems? Raise your hand if you have even a little tiny problem. Anybody have big problems, little problems, medium problems, short-term problems, long-term problems? Prabhupada says here, that solves all the problems. With the intelligence, one seeks out their constitutional position of the soul and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. This is our goal. This is our opportunity. This is that which has been given to us in this human form of life, and we're meant to take advantage of it. We're meant to take advantage of it, and it solves all the problems. Now, neophytes are generally, instructed or advised to keep aloof from the sense objects. Why is that? Because the sense objects are more powerful than our senses. This is described. The sense objects are more powerful than our senses, and they can lead our senses astray unless we have then utilize our good intelligence or our mind to understand to utilize knowledge to understand what is spirit and what is matter. Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha. Matter is temporary. Spirit is eternal. And knowledge means to understand the difference between these two, and our intelligence is meant to direct us so that we utilize this knowledge to overcome all the problems in this world. Because when we're in an immature state, any little sense object that comes in front of us will capture us. But Prabhupada explains it further throughout these purports, that when one is situated in pure transcendental knowledge and the mind is cleared and the intelligence is utilized, then these sense objects become like a serpent with broken fangs. They have no effect. A serpent with no fangs cannot poison us. Whereas when we are unprepared, then any little thing. I was doing a little, giving myself a little education yesterday. Education. I went to a very wonderful dance recital for one of our wonderful young ladies in our community. Practically known her since she was born. She captured my heart when she used to tell me to punch her with pillows and stuff. And so on the way, I was just watching. It was a 45-minute drive. 45-minute drive over to Arlington. I think it's UT Arlington or something like that. Bombarded with sensual stimulus every second on the road. Every second. Go meet these girls at this girl nightclub. And they all look very nice, and the guy looks very happy. Lo and behold, when his wallet is empty, he's not happy anymore. Drink this, you'll become happy. Do this, do that, do this, you'll become happy. About 35, 40 some years ago, I read a book on subliminal advertising. I suggest, well, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. But after I read that, I see all the subliminal advertising that goes on in the advertising that we don't even know is there. You may see a glass of Coca-Cola with some ice cubes in it, and you may think it's just a cold, refreshing drink. But lo and behold, there is something vulgar, something very, very inappropriate in that picture of that Coca-Cola with a set of ice cubes that goes into our subconsciousness and, what would you say, stimulates us to take thinking that if I get this Coca-Cola, I will get that sense gratification that's not even the Coca-Cola. We're being brainwashed. In the 70s, we were in late 60s, early 70s, maybe even early 80s, we were accused of brainwashing people. Prabhupada says, we are brainwashing because your brain is full of cow dung. That was polite, at least it's a cow. Cow dung is purifying. Our brains are so full, we don't even know what's happening to us. We're subliminally being assaulted at every single moment. I think I told you this before, but I'll tell you again anyway. I worked in an ashram, had an ashram. There was a girls' ashram. And I went to visit the ashram. I told you this story. And they were making a collage of different modes of material nature. They'd had these boards, and they're cutting pictures out of magazines to show the mode of ignorance, to show the mode of passion, to show the mode of goodness. And they had a magazine that was called Allure. Yeah, remember that? Yeah. When you have a lure, not a lure, but a lure, that's something that's meant to, what do you call sparkle, to catch a fish when you're going fishing. So to allure somebody is to try to capture them. And so the first 70-plus pages were advertisements in a magazine that's this thick and you have to pay like $10 for. And every single page was subliminally advertising us to engage in things which are reprehensible if one wants to be engaged in spiritual life. And it goes deep into the subconsciousness. So these things are meant to be avoided. That's why we regulate our senses. That's why in the beginning, we try to avoid. It's not possible. I remember one time a young married, not young, young compared to me, household gentleman man came to me, and he was explaining to me. I may have mentioned this before. He was explaining to me, Maharaj, I'm in the workplace. And we have to do so many things when we're involved in our employment. We're required to go to this meeting. We're required to go to this luncheon. We're required to go to this place. And he says, there's so many, I'll just put it bluntly, beautiful ladies in the atmosphere, in the restaurants, in the places where they have to have their meetings and stuff, and I see them all the time. And I said, don't worry, seeing is okay. You cannot avoid that. In this material world, you're going to see something. We are composed of the modes of material nature, and our material nature has a specific way by which we're attracted to the material energy, and we're going to see those things day in and day out and day in and day out. But I told them it's not your fault that you see these things in one sense, but don't look. You understand the difference? If you see it, that should be a red flag. The seeing and your mind saying that this looks beautiful, then just tell yourself with your spiritual intelligence, deliberate spiritual intelligence, and control that sensual idea that you have that can break your spiritual life. Not only your spiritual life, your married life, your family life, your work life, it can break everything down to pieces if we don't learn to regulate our senses. That's the outcome. I think that was good advice. Anybody think that was good advice? It goes true for the ladies too. We're not gonna exempt them. Please be careful. Keep yourself focused on your ultimate goal. Keep that goal. People are in want of an ultimate goal, and therefore they change their goals day by day, month by month, year by year. That goal is always being, what would you say, obstructed or received and not received. But if you get it, it doesn't produce what you want and you lament. And if you don't get it, it doesn't produce what you want and you lament. So the whole process is a process of lamentation in this world. Hankering and lamenting. Hankering and lamenting. Is that Nasochati, Nakamshati? Hankering and lamenting. I have my scholar here to help me. Anybody here ever hanker for something? Anybody here ever lament when you got that something? I told you this story. I used to live in the Christian house in Gainesville. I had the corner room right by the intersection, and one man came through. This corner had so many car accidents. It was like a mecca for car crashes. And this guy came through, and he had a brand new car. Still had the thing on the window, still had the paper tag, and he smashed into a car. And he said, I only had this car for like 20 minutes, and now it's completely smashed. So excited for 20 minutes. I'm now the owner. I'm now the controller. I'm now the enjoyer. I'm the big man on campus, and pop, it's gone. That's how you pop the bubble. And don't worry, everybody's bubble is popped. You can't avoid it. Pop goes the weasel. Everybody's going to sing that song. Anyone's going to have that happen to them. Did anybody ever experience pop goes the weasel, pop goes the desire, pop goes the enjoyment? Honesty is a very good aspect in spiritual life. If we can just become honest and pray to Krishna, pray to Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, to Krishna, to please protect us in this world. We know that Krishna will protect us according to yeyatam mam prapajante tam sataiva braja. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. For Krishna is protecting us all at every moment. He's just supplying us everything that we desire. We learn this from the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Our consciousness forms our next body. Of course, 8th chapter, yam yam vapi smanam bhavam, but that we get a particular mind, set of senses, all these different things we get according to our activities. And the super soul takes us through to the next body, and he provides for us that facility which we desire. Bhagavad Gita explains that everything begins from desire. We can't become desireless. That's impossible. The nature of the soul is that he's full of desire. What's the Sanskrit for full of desire? We're always pleasure-seeking living entities. We're pleasure-seeking living entities. Anandamaya abhyasat. We are pleasure-seeking living entities. That's our nature. We're always searching those things out. But they cause failure. We can only become satisfied in our eternal relationship, in our environment, that spiritual environment which we come from. That is our only source of happiness. And we're outside that, no matter what we receive or don't receive, will not make us happy. I was thinking of this verse today too. Oh, 60. Excuse me. I'm on the wrong number. This is a good verse if anybody wants to learn this verse. The whole thing is anandamaya bhyasat. All we want to do is be happy. Nasta bodhi ayuktasya cha yuktasya bhavana na cha ya bhyavata santar ashanasya kuta sukham. One who is not connected with the Supreme Lord Krishna in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence. We were talking about that transcendental intelligence which we need to utilize to understand what knowledge is. The difference between matter and spirit, we need that type of intelligence. So we need transcendental intelligence. So if we're not situated in Krishna consciousness, we can't absorb that transcendental intelligence. And without that transcendental intelligence, we cannot steady the mind. One famous Christian preacher one time said, you got to get your mind out. If you can get your mind out, everything else will follow. But the process for getting the mind out is tasmat tvam indriyanyarta, regulating our senses. So the verse says, we can't have transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, and without which there's no possibility of peace. Everyone wants to be peaceful. And how can there be any happiness without peace? If the mind is rattling, tickety, 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 just like we had that drum person last night, tickety, tickety, ta, 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 pa, pa. They were like saying all the mantras. It was pretty cool. Thank you all for listening. Hare Krishna.